Too many things in your life repeat. Classes on set days of the week, gym splits on cycle, paydays on every nth dates of the month, and grocery shopping every week. But Notion unfortunately doesn't have repeats. Well, I mean, Notion does let you schedule when a new page will be made, but it isn't the same as having normal repeats because all your hard work are in the actual pages, not database page templates. So in this video, I'll teach you how to build your own repeats. We will be using multiple Notion repeat options, no third-party apps, no Notion AI, optional Notion automations. I will teach you the method for Notion automations if you have access to it, and no Notion automations through a button if you're on the free plan. Our method will also be date range friendly, Sunday or Monday start friendly, time sensitive, and time zone friendly. It gets turned off after X number of times you repeated it, intentionally built for Notion and Notion Calendar, and no additional costs, unlike other methods that use AI credits or repeating subscriptions. Hi, I'm Gosdee, Notion expert, and in this channel I'll open up everything I know about Notion. I'll be 100% transparent about my builds, even the formulas I use in my premium templates. This way, you don't need to ask your consulting clients to pay extra for third-party apps for repeats, no more asking on the subreddit over and over again, and no more digging through outdated Notion blogs. So let's start. Unlike most apps with pre-built repeat systems, on Notion you have to build your own. The repeats I've made are 27, selectable with a repeat select. Having 27 means things can get really complicated, and if you've seen one of my shorts, you'd understand how complex repeats can get. So for this video, our main goal is to establish the baseline of how Notion repeats work, which is why we'll first build the most basic repeat of all, daily. And in future videos, we'll build on the same formulas and the same properties we make today for more repeats. There are two Notion repeat models, each used for different reasons. Repeat model 1 has one purpose, that is to transfer the page from one date onto the next date. This is used by tasks, projects, and goals. Repeat model 2 is the repeat model that has a moving scoring range that filters your tracker entries based on the repeat type based on the date to day. This means that if our repeat is weekly, then the score we will get will sum from all the entries made within this current week. If you made an entry last week, for example, then that won't count toward the score. The scoring range gets updated every week as the day changes. How big the scoring range gets depends on the repeat type. Per month if monthly, per week if weekly. This is used by habit trackers, gym trackers, finance trackers, and the like. This video series is about repeat model 1 only. Why? This is because repeat model 2 is a lot more complicated than repeat model 1. It's necessary if you want to build any legitimate repeating tracker system of any type to use repeat model 2, but putting both in the same video will only overcomplicate things and we don't want that, so we're sticking to repeat model 1 for now in this series. Let's start. Let's build a database. Tasks. We will be needing the following properties. First, the basics. The done checkbox, status, due, a date property, and a button named auto. If you don't have access to Notion automations, we'll use this instead. Second, the main repeat settings. A checkbox named repeating, a select property named repeat. Third, the interface. This is basically formulas that will tell us what Notion is thinking based on the input we will be giving it. This is a formula property named reminder and rules. Fourth, repeat limiters. Since we may or may not want our repeat to go on forever, a select property named count, a number property named count number, and a number property named progress is what we'll use. Fifth, the background process. These are all formulas. We'll talk about what they are first, and we'll discuss them line by line later. Today date, which is the date today. Action reminder control, which tells us when's the next repeat date. Aux current cycle start, aux current cycle end. Aux current cycle start and aux current cycle end, or ACC start and ACC end, are displays for the revolving date range. In other words, if our repeat type is weekly, then it shows the current range of dates in our week, from Sunday to Saturday or Monday to Sunday. If monthly, it shows the month range. In future videos, we will also have the current cycle start and the current cycle end, which is why these ones are auxiliary. But for now, we won't include those two here. Next due, which is the next due. Next due plus 1, which is the date used if today is the next due. So it's the next due but one day into the future. I'll explain more later. A formula named count number control, so our count number has filler in case we forget to add a number value. A formula property count check, which checks if our progress has surpassed our count number limit. Due time start, this will extract the time value of the start of the due date. Due time end, this will do the same but for the end date of the due. Due time diff, this is the difference between the start and end dates of the due time range. These three, due time start and then diff, are all used by the next time calibrated. The next time calibrated is basically next due but time sensitive. Next time calibrated plus 1 is basically next due plus 1 but time sensitive. Next is NTC neutral and NTC neutral plus 1. These two are basically next time calibrated and next time calibrated plus 1, but the only difference is that they aren't affected by time zones. Why do we split the next time calibrated group and the NTC neutral group? We split the two because Notion Automations assumes that all date formulas use the UTC time zone, so we need to use the time zone based next time calibrated group. Notion buttons, meanwhile, including the button property and the button block, can match whatever time zone you're on, so there's no need for extra time zone calculations, so they use the NTC neutral group. This happens regardless of whatever time zone you select. This is really just how it works, so we adapt. Last is time zone plus or minus hours and time zone plus or minus minutes. These are the plus or minus of your time zone relative to the UTC time zone. Now we edit our properties. For done, status, due, we can't really do anything about those, so we skip them. I personally like my done checkboxes as circle checkboxes, so I'll edit that here. For the button auto, we'll edit that later when we're fixing the automations already. For the repeating checkbox, let's just change its icon here to be the repeat symbol just to make it clear. The same goes for the repeat select. Now in repeat, we add the option daily. We will be filling this repeat with more repeat options in the future. For the count select, we will add the options limited and unlimited. Next, let's edit the icons of the interface formulas, reminder, and rules. We won't be editing the formula of these for now, since they serve as display for some of the background processes formulas, which we don't have yet. Now let's start the background processes. We will now fill these up and now discuss the formulas they contain. Starting with the basics, we will focus on today date, the action reminder control, ACC start, and ACC end. For today date, we will just add the function today. We isolate this in its own formula so that all the other background process formulas will refer to a common date today, which we can turn into a date property, which is super useful if we are testing. Although for now, we'll keep this as a formula. Action Reminder Control, or ARC, will tell us when's the next due date. Since right now our only repeat is daily, we'll just add that here. If's repeat is, with the double equals, daily, comma, repeats today. In future videos, like what we did in the repeats, we will fill this up with more rules for other repeat options. For now, since our focus is the fundamentals, we'll stick to daily. Next is aux current cycle start and aux current cycle end, or ACC start and ACC end. The purpose of both is to define the time range. Therefore, our end result for these formulas is a date. This is our formula. Let's, so that we can set our variables, today date, and today date, which is the property, date format, YYYY-MM-DD. We add this because this is the date format Notion uses to process dates. Then we add if's prop repeat is daily, then today date dot format date parentheses date format. What this line does is that if our repeat is daily, then our ACC start will be whatever the date is today processed in that format. And we close parentheses both the lets and the ifs and end it with dot parse date. Parse date will turn our date, which is in string format right now, the YYYY-MM-DD format, into an actual workable date that Notion can use. For aux current cycle end, for daily, it's exactly the same. We can just copy the auxCC start to the auxCC end. Why is this the same? Since both aux current cycle formulas define the date range of the current repeat cycle based on the repeat type, and our repeat is only daily, it makes sense to make both produce the same value, because the time range of daily is, well, just today. In other repeats, of course, this won't be the case. Next is the next due mechanics. We will focus on the two next dues, namely next due and next due plus 1. The next due is the target should be date that other formulas will be using. This is the nearest target date of the repeat. This is the formula, which looks exactly like ACC start. Since our repeat is daily, it only makes sense that the next due, inclusive of today, is today. Again, when more and more repeats come in, this will get a lot more complicated, but it's very straightforward for now. For next due plus 1, it's the same formula, but on the initial today date property, we add the function .dateAdd 1 days. We do this since the purpose of nextDue plus 1 is to identify the target date after today, which is tomorrow. Because imagine if your task appears in your inbox and when you set your status as done, instead of the due moving to tomorrow like it should, it just doesn't move and sticks to today. That's what will happen if we only use nextDue. nextDue plus 1 prevents this by sending the next due date to whenever is the next repeat date after today. In our case, in daily, that's tomorrow. Next is the count mechanics. We may not want our repeat to go on forever, so here we add the repeat count mechanics. We will focus on all formulas with the word count in them. Here is the count number control. The count number's purpose is to set the maximum number of repeat counts, which will get activated when count is equals to limited. So this means that it's important that we make sure it always has a functional value. So we add this formula. If count number is empty or is less than 1, then it's 1, else just use the count number. CountCheck will check if our progress has surpassed our count number limit. So if this is true, then our repeat will still continue. If this becomes false, our repeat will not repeat anymore. So we add this formula. True here means the repeat will go on. If it becomes false, then the repeat will stop. If count is limited, then we set this condition. Else, which means it's unlimited, then it's true. Count being limited is conditional. Meanwhile, count being unlimited means just make it true. Condition if count is limited is this. If progress is greater than or equal to count number control, then false, which means stop repeat. Else, which means progress hasn't met the count number yet, then true, which means just continue repeating. Next is the time sensitivity mechanics. How do we make it so that our repeat is time sensitive? We'll focus on the due time start, due time end, due time diff, next time calibrated plus 1, NTC neutral, and NTC neutral plus 1, time zone plus minus hours, and time zone plus minus minutes. For due time start, we extract the time of the start of our due, so we add this formula. We retrieve the date start of the due, and then format it as hh.mm. Again, this is the format that Notion can understand dates, so we use this formatting. For due time end, we do the same but for the end. For due time diff, we find the diff in days between the date start and date end. This is used later in date calculations in the for next time calibrated formulas. We write date between, the due date end, the usual format date, then parse date to turn it into a Notion readable format. Why do we need to go extra steps to reformat it into YYYY-MM-DD? That's because right now we need a non-time sensitive due end since it will be used in the date calculations later that need non-time sensitivity. And then we surround the entire formula in an if statement that prevents errors in case due is missing. For next time calibrated, this is the direct reference date of our automation, which we will add later. The formula goes like this. How this works is we first set the variables, which is the 2 time zone value, and the next due. The if statement creates 6 states in 2 groups. It has many potential states because we want to match the formatting state of the due property as follows. First is the one date group, where the due start and the due end are the same. This is for due with no time range. It contains the states of due time start and due time end being empty. This is where the due looks like this. Where the due time is at 00.00 or 12 a.m., where the due looks like this. And for the rest of the other one date examples. Why is it that we need to specify the state where due time is 00.00 or 12 a.m.? Doesn't that already belong to the rest of the other one date templates? Here's why. Notion automations read all formulas as UTC. It can't specify time zone. Therefore, we add the clause .dateAdd to calibrate it based on the time zone. But this is with the exception of any due that starts on 00.00 or 12 a.m. After running several tests, this is just how it works in Notion. I'm personally not sure why this is the case. If anyone knows, just leave it down in the comments. But this is how it consistently has been. So we add this 00.00 ifs condition to counter that. The second group is for due with date range. This is whenever the due property will have a specific start and end date, regardless if it's the same day or spans several days. It contains the states of due time start and due time end being empty. This is where the due looks like this. Due time being at 00.00. Again, this serves as a counter to the fact that Notion automation reads date formulas as UTC, unless the due start is 12 a.m., where it matches whatever your time zone is. The last code section is for the rest of the date range results. Next time calibrated plus 1 is next time calibrated, but instead of next due, we have next due plus 1. The NTC neutral group is basically the next time calibrated group, but without time zone edits. For NTC neutral, we just use next time calibrated, but instead of using the time zone, we add 0 instead. For NTC neutral plus 1, we just use the next time calibrated plus 1, but instead of using the time zone, we add 0 instead. For time zone plus or minus hours, I'll add here plus 8 in the hours since that's my time zone. For time zone plus or minus minutes, I'll add here 0 since my time zone doesn't have a specific minute level distance from UTC. Always remember that the time zone you set here should always match the time zone you have in Notion side panel settings. Additionally, it must also always match your system settings, since Notion can read that too. Next is the interface. This is so that we know what Notion is thinking before it makes the repeat. In other words, this is the summary of all calculations Notion will produce, so that our repeats are clear and predictable. For the rules, this is our formula. If repeating is false, then we just want to return none. We also add our variables with the lets as usual for today date. We also add the word do here as a string. Then ifs, our repeat is daily. Then when do we do our task? Daily. The end result of this is the phrase do daily. But what about for reminder? If repeating is false, then as usual, it's none. But if not, we add this array, enclosed in brackets with a filter for non-empty results, and join with a \n for a new paragraph break. Inside the bracket is this array. This is composed of 4 items. First, if ACC start and ACC end are both not empty, then we want to print the date range, now, plus whatever the date range is. If the ACC start and end are the same, then just print the ACC start because they're the same, so we just put the ACC start there. Else, add the date range with the ACC start and the ACC end dot format so that it returns a string. And empty with this blank quotation marks if one of the ACC start or ACC end is empty. Second, if action reminder control has content, then we use it. No, if not. Third, if our repeat will repeat today, the line will show the next date after today. This way, even if the repeat will repeat today, it will happen today, we will also know when's the next repeat date. Fourth, if count is limited, then we want the count to display our progress over our count control. Else, if it's unlimited, then the count will only show our progress. Now let's start with the automations. We'll put everything we made in this automation. Let's make the repeat. This is what will move the due date to the next date. Our triggers for repeat is any of the following: done set to checked or status set to complete. We define the variable repeat conditions like here because this is the common reference that the rest of the automation will use. Both the repeating and the count check must be true for the automation to make its edits, else it won't act. Now it's time for our edits. Set due to, here's our formula. If repeat conditions equals true, then we start the action. If due is empty, then as a failsafe, just use today. If the next due is empty, then return the due. For daily, the next due will never be empty, but for other repeats, it might. Else, if repeat is not empty, do this. If today date is equals to next due, in other words, if the repeat is due today, then move the due date to the next time calibrated plus 1. Else, move it to next time calibrated. And we end this with the else of the due if the repeat condition isn't true. Next, we set the automation for the done property. If repeat conditions is true, then done will be reset as false. If not, then return whatever done was. The same logic applies when we edit the set status to. If it's true, then reset to not started, else use whatever status was, and set progress to whatever progress is plus 1. For repeating off, set repeating to. If repeating is true, then we act. If count check, the checker if progress has met the count number is true, then we leave the repeating as true. Else if count check is false, then it's false. If repeating isn't true after all, then leave it false. If you don't have Notion automations, we will use a button to do what Notion automations should have done. Basically, we will be copy-pasting the formulas we used in the automation, but instead of trigger page being referred, we use this page. First, the repeat. We set the variable, repeat conditions, the same logic we used before, but instead of trigger page, we use this page. We added a page in the database, which is this page. For due, we use the due formula we used before, but with trigger page changed into this page. In addition to next time calibrated and next time calibrated plus 1 being replaced by NTC neutral and NTC neutral plus 1. The same goes for done, the same goes for status, the same goes for progress. We also add the repeating off in this same button. We use the same formula, but with this page instead of trigger page. Now it's time to test everything. We'll set our due here, which is today, May 13, and press the done checkbox. And as you can see, it moves to the next due date, which is tomorrow. Let's bring back the due to today, and we turn the status into done. And as you can see, the due is moving. It works correctly. But what if we hit our repeat limit? If, for example, let's set our count to limited and set count number to 3, and our current progress is 2, so right now, since we're 2 out of 3, we haven't hit our limit yet, so if we hit done, it will still add 1 more. Now that we're 3 out of 3 and we've hit the limit, what happens if we hit done? As you can see, it turns the repeating off, the done and status don't get reset anymore, and the rules and reminder reverts to the no repeat display, which just says none. The same will happen for our button. We reset it all first. Let's also pause our automations, and we press done, or status, then press the button, and as you can see, it works correctly. The due has moved. The button has done what the automation should do. What about in Notion Calendar? Let's just turn the count back to unlimited, turn on our notifications again, and reset our repeating, status, and done, and due, so we can see how our task behaves in Notion Calendar. Press Manage in Calendar. So what happens? If we press the status here as done, what should happen is that the task will move to the next day, tomorrow, right? So let's do just that. We set the status as done, and very important, unclick out of the task, so Notion can know that your edit is final, so the automation will run. And then what happens here, we can reload to update the Notion calendar faster, and as you can see here, it's set. The task has moved. But what if our task spans a huge range of time? Let's set it today at 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. What happens then? We set the status as done again, and we reload it to make it load faster, and as you can see, it moved to tomorrow at the exact same time. The same will happen if our date range spans several days. We set the status as done, then reload to make it faster. And as you can see, it moved to the next due date, using the start date as the anchor. And that's it. In this video, we learned the fundamentals of Notion repeats. We made a complete Notion repeat system using the first repeat daily. See you on the next one.